Hi everyone and welcome back to the Colour Cave where we like to play with art stuff. My name is Jim and for my more regular viewers you will have noticed that we have not had an unboxing and we have not had a challenge from our good friends at Scrawlrbox. My Scrawlrbox has disappeared, it's got lost in the mail. I have contacted them and they're going to send me out another one. So there's going to be a bit of a flip to the schedule and that will come probably in the next week or so. So as a replacement video, which is something that I was kind of wanting to do anyway, I wanted something really fun and this is actually very special and is very exciting and it fits in the palm of my hand. One of my favourite videos recently was the coffee funded gouache videos. I had such good fun with gouache. I don't know whether or not this is going to beat that, but I am super excited and I cannot wait to show you what fits in the palm of my hand. So let's get to top down view and we can get going for a slightly unscheduled but still very arty video. Let's get going. This is one of those times where I feel really privileged and grateful to be a YouTuber because I have been sent this lovely tin of handmade watercolour paints to my PO box. And these have come courtesy of Julia, who not only is a very talented lady, but she's also an incredibly nice lady as well, and of course a friend of the channel. So to tell you a bit about Julia, she makes watercolour paint and she sells it on her Etsy store, of which the details shall be below. Not only that, she has a YouTube channel where she shows you her making the paint, and she also does studio vlogs and general drawing videos and painting videos as well. So if you fancy checking her out, you can see the links that will be in the description and you can go and take a look at her lovely channel too. I absolutely love watching her make paint. Honestly, it is the most relaxing thing ever. So thank you very much, Julia, for sending me these paints. I am super excited about these because they are so pretty and some of them are sparkly. So here it is. This is one of Julia's little mini palettes that she has put together. And as you can see, it is very cute. It is very dinky indeed, and I like it a lot. So she's obviously put a lot of thought into these. And when you open this up, she gives you a tiny little scrap of watercolour paper that fits into the lid, and you can use that to protect the paints, or you can make your own swatches inside and stick them in the lid so that you have that for reference. Now just by opening this up you can see, look how shiny these are. They are absolutely beautiful. Now she does make these paints by hand and she fills the pans by hand as well. So although these are really loose and rattling about the tin, I'm going to explain this. She has sent me 6 glimmery, shimmery, lovely half pans of her varying paint colours. When you take these little pans out of here, she also includes underneath little magnets that have adhesive on one side, so you can stick these to the bottom of your pan and that stays stuck there, and then this side is magnetic so that you can arrange them in the tin whichever way you feel is the best combination, or the most aesthetically pleasing or whatever. And that's just one of these little touches that's really nice about getting something handmade. I haven't stuck them in here. I am going to buy an empty 48 half pan palette because I want to buy all of her paints because they are absolutely beautiful, and you will see why in just a moment. This is just cheap watercolour paper. This is still the WH Smith watercolour paper that I've been trying to get rid of for absolutely ever. Now one thing about Julia's paints is that because they are handmade, they vary in consistency between each particular colour because she's using different components to make each colour. So the upshot of that is that you will find that some of the paints are naturally wetter than others even when they're dry. Now I hope that makes sense. What I mean by that is some of the pans, depending on the colour, you can touch some of the pans once they are dry. You'll be able to like stick your finger in them and you'll have nothing come off. Some of the other ones will have a sort of sticky residue, and if I just show you the inside of the tin, you can see there's a couple of the colours that stay quite sort of sticky even after you've left them to dry out in natural in the natural environment. So that is something to be wary of, and that is something that you just get with handmade paints. So that little piece of paper, if you're going to use this for your swatches, you would be better to have another layer of paper, even a sheet of tracing paper, to sit over the top of the pans to stop it marking your beautiful swatches. One of the really cool things about these as well, they have such interesting names. Now even just as I've wet this here, you can see all the colour moving about in the pan, and it's absolutely delightful. And would you look at this? Now I'm going to hold this up to the light in a minute. All of the paints are really creamy. The pigment moves beautifully over the paper. And I have tried this on cheap paper and expensive paper. But if I just hold this up to the light now, you can see how shiny and pigmented that is, and it is just absolutely lovely. And even when you start to thin it out and dilute it out, you still get this lovely shimmer that's left behind. Would you look at that? So we'll let that one dry. I just love the way it moves across the paper. And Julia is really sweet and thoughtful because she has sent me this colour because she knows how much I like earthy greens. I do paint a lot of, sort of treescapes and woodland type things. So this is a colour that I will use absolutely all the time. Okay, this is where things get interesting. Will you look at this? Now, at a first glance, you think to yourself, okay, that's a really weird shade of green. As it starts to dry, you can see when you tilt it in the light, it is a green paint with this lovely gold metallic tint in it. So depending on which way the light catches it or which way you're looking at it, you actually get two colours. Now the green does start to darken down as it dries, so I'm going to leave that and come back to it. But having those two aspects in one paint is just absolutely gorgeous, and I absolutely love it. The very last one is my absolute favourite, and it is one of the same sorts of paints. It looks really sort of grey and blah in the pan as well, and that's what makes these so exciting, because when you put them on the paper it just goes wow, and it just all changes. So this is like, it's almost like a greeny turquoisey colour, but it has silver pigment in it. And it is just absolutely delightful. Okay, so I had to cut the end of that segment short because basically my dog started barking and ruined all my joy. So here I am sketching out the outline for the idea I have for the picture. And I'm using a Prismacolor Colorase pencil just in case I was going to make any mistakes. But green was a really good idea because obviously the theme of the palette is green. So moving on, I am using the watercolorist arch enemy, which is the good old masking fluid here. And I just wanted to mask off the main part of the picture because I wanted to do a wash in the background, which most of you won't be surprised about by now because that's what I like to do. So I've got this kind of creepy tree thing going on, but you will see as the picture goes on that it is not actually a creepy tree per se. I've switched to a silicone brush here, and this is much better for doing the masking fluid thing. So this is Shimmer paint, and I'm just adding in some splotchy bits. I wanted a really dark grey sky because it reminds me of Scottish sky. And this colour, just the minute I saw it, I was like, yeah, this is what it looks like most of the time in Scotland if you look upwards. And the paint just squished out onto the paper beautifully. Moving down to the bottom, I'll add a little bit of a background here. So this is me using the straight Gustave paint. So this is one of the ones that has no sparkles in. And I'm just putting in that sort of background hill there. And I wanted that reasonably smooth. And when I move to the foreground, I'm using exactly the same colour, but it's just a much more concentrated version of it. And you can see just by having a little less water in it, the contrast is quite stark. I'm varying my brush strokes here because I wanted more of a textured feel in the front to give that idea of grass and things, and just make it interesting and stuff. I also wanted to test out the thirsty brush. Say that when you're drunk. The thirsty brush technique, because it's something I use a lot, not being a painter. And it works really well with Julia's paints as well. Moving on to my actual tree now. This is me using the Arvid paint, which is my favourite one. That's the teal one with the silver in it. And I worked my way down the trunk of the tree, but you can see there I branched out, no pun intended, into the sort of side branches. And it's so that when I go back over it, I've got that little bit of layering and texture that's going to give it more of a sort of woody feel. So I'm just working my way around here with a size 1 round, and that seemed to do the trick. So that was pretty good. Adding in some sort of, I want to say detail, it's just some little like grassy fronds to make the foreground a bit more interesting before I moved on to filling in the rest of the branches of my not so spooky tree. It does look quite spooky though, to be fair. And I just love the way that I can get the variation in the paint. If you actually let the paint settle and just dip your brush in it, it will give you more of the standard watercolour. But if you want more of the glimmery effect, all you have to do is kind of like squiggle your brush around in it a little bit, and it agitates the glittery pigment so it brings it to the surface, if you see what I'm saying. Moving on to the part that makes this tree less spooky, I wanted a kind of, I don't know how to describe this, just like a sort of glimmery, like swirly magical something or other. And you can see I was holding my head there and I kept kind of squinting at the picture to try and get it right, so please excuse my big head in the way at this point. But the interesting thing as well is you can see the way that the light from the cave window is casting over the tree, and I actually thought that would be quite cool to add into the picture. If I hadn't spent so much time on this up till now and had been so pressed for time, then I would have actually incorporated that in. So that's an idea I'm going to keep for another painting. So you can see here I'm trying to get this idea of this sort of magical swirly something or other going on in the painting. And not only that, I wanted to be able to sort of differentiate that ribbon sort of banner feel to it. So I used the more bronzy coloured paint to fill in like the back sections, and it just helps to give that little bit of contrast. I had lost most of my pencil lines by now, so I'm now regretting the green Colorase pencil. Learned a lesson for next time. But I still managed to sort of coordinate things to my liking. And just to finish off, I wanted to do some paint splatters because it's nice and sparkly and stuff. So I used both the bronze and the gold one just to add a little bit of a, you know, va-va-voom to the end of the picture. Sign the bottom, job's a good one. I absolutely love these paints. Thank you again, Julia, for sending them to me. And look at my border, it's so crisp. I would love to know your thoughts on this, guys, and please let us know what you think about Julia's paints as well. Thank you so much for joining me on such an impromptu and unscheduled video. I'm actually really pleased with the outcome of this, and I hope you've enjoyed spending the time in the cave with me. So we shall see you next time for another video back in the cave. Have a good day, everyone, and bye for now.